You know, it's like the 10-year overnight success sort of thing. Right now, things are going incredibly fast.
Right.
There are some names that will come to market in the next 6 months that will blow people's minds. And the scale at which they come to market will completely catch people off guard.
Another project that I'm heavily focused on in the moment right now is the Canton network and everything that's going on. Their partnerships, their integrations, and just some of the phenomenal things that they've accomplished over the last consecutive couple of months alone. But I want to really focus on some things that in a recent interview, Eric from obviously, of course, the co-founder of Digital Assets said on the Ledger podcast. This only has 216 views and was just released 5 hours ago. And one of the primary things that I really like that he says at the very onset of this, about 12 minutes and 20 seconds in, is he talks about how tribalism is just detrimental. And I really like this because amongst the CEOs, at least some of them, I can't speak for all of them, but I feel like a lot of people from the Canton network, they're not tribal, they're not trying to compete, they're not out here saying that we're better or, you know, we're the replacement of XRP or we're better than Chainlink or we're better than this. It's really all just Twitter noise when it comes to those tribalistic views. Here you have Eric specifically saying that tribalism is not good for the space. Take a second here and listen.
Following, like there was it's a gigantic space and a rising tide floats all boats. I don't know if you were following, like there was this debate maybe a month ago at this point, I lost track of time, about, you know, DeFi Llama and RWA.xyz not putting figures, stats out there. And I think this whole tribalism in the space is doing everyone a disservice because you're continually pitting people against each other instead of saying, well, no, look, what JP Morgan did with JP Coin is not the way we would do a stable coin. But that's an interesting experiment for different reasons. They're trying to solve fundamentally different problems. They have different constraints and different opportunities. They're both on chain. Why would you look down your nose on that and say, oh, it's not totally permissionless, actually? Like it doesn't matter. Like all these things will rotate on chain. That is an opening up and like the world collectively coming to a similar cadence of the new way going forward that is net beneficial for everybody. So I'd rather that all these things, the DeFi Llamas of the world, the RWA.xyz, all of them, just list everything. Put it all out there and let the reader understand the problem that they're trying to solve and why that meant they went in a different direction than somebody else. And we would all get smarter from being more sort of objective and thoughtful about it.
Yeah. And I think your survey.
So I don't know. I really like that he mentioned that tribalism is detrimental for the space and that a rising tide raises all boats, right? And then that led me over here is so many people that don't know that this has taken shape, right? You have a lot of people from the XRP community saying Canton's a scam. I've seen it so frequently, but I feel like this was the icing on the cake that shows that if you invest in Ripple's XRP, you should be focused on the Canton ecosystem, because in a previous video breakdown prior to this one, I've showed now 3 times how to some extent indirectly Ripple has had its hand in Canton network technology. And this put the icing on the cake when I found out that this Ripple X partner success VP vice president here that worked at Ripple for 5 years and 10 months now works as the head of network growth at Digital Asset, the creator of Canton Network. And the crazier thing to me was that this announcement that just recently took shape with TradeWeb and the strategic $31 million Series B funding round into crossover markets, I showed in a previous video breakdown how Ripple was an investor in this and how it tied into Canton. And Ripple did not announce this on their Twitter. They didn't announce this on their LinkedIn profile at all. But here's the announcement right here. And you can see that Ripple was an investor. And this is from March 4th, 2026. So this is all relatively recent. We know TradeWeb, a huge partner of Canton, right? They sit on the Canton validator list. They run technology on Canton Network. So this was just crazy to see, and just goes to show that Ripple's not tribal, right? They're investing in multiple different technologies, technology and venues that sit on top of Canton. So, you know, this was just another huge confirmation for me to see a direct Ripple representative, where just on stage like 8 months ago, she was sitting on stage at a digital asset summit talking up the XRPL and talking up XRP. And now she works full time at Digital Asset. So that was just for me as an XRP holder, more confidence to diversify some of my bags in some of my positions into Canton. Not financial advice, of course, right? Back to this, okay? I'm sure that Aqua had this one as a note as well, but this is something that Eric said. This is the last video clip that I want to play from the Ledger podcast here. But Eric said that people will have their mind blown as to what's going to be announced in regards to the Canton network and partnerships over the next 6 months. So just take a second and listen to what he says here.
On the real world side of stuff, because it's also an enabler for the second one.
Mm-hmm.
If you have perfect, 24/7 creation and redemption across these things, helps you produce a higher quality permissionless wrapped asset. But it all starts with solving the liquidity problems on the real world side.
Mm-hmm.
So having the real assets, having the real lending markets that are deep, that have all the really large passive liquidity, getting all of that set up, it helps build better permissionless products.
Mm-hmm.
So it's both. But our focus primarily and overwhelmingly by effort and go to market is on the real world side of stuff.
Yeah. And that's and how fast is that going?
It's like the 10-year overnight success sort of thing. Right now, things are going incredibly fast.
Right.
There are some names that will come to market in the next 6 months that will blow people's minds, and the scale at which they come to market will completely catch people off guard. But some of these names have been on our cap table for a decade.
Yeah.
And, we've been working through all sorts of problems with them for a very long time. So the moons have definitely aligned.
Yeah.
Yes, Lord. Let's go.
The moons have definitely aligned. So like when I hear things like that, it like just further confirms why the lady Aurelia Dilemmas, who used to work at Ripple, shifted over. I wonder what happened in the background to make her want to not work at Ripple anymore, to want to go work at Digital Asset. Or it could be a thing where Ripple was like, you know what? Let's get an insider at Digital Asset, She probably still has huge ties and connection to Ripple after working there for 5 years, you would assume.
Absolutely. And what Eric just said at the end, I mean, what else could he be referring to when he says they're going to come in at a scale that's going to totally catch everybody off guard? When he mentioned scale, I mean, you got to be referring to liquidity here, right? Like
that too. And think about where the market landscape is at and everybody's mentality. People are so like ready to just throw in the towel and be like, nah, crypto's a scam again. The market's down. I mean, obviously, of course, the real OGs, the real XRP holders and utility bag holders and all the people that understand the underlying technology will eventually be utilized at scale are still holding onto their bags. But most everyday average retail holders, I feel like a lot of people have jumped ship now. They've been shaken out after this recent event that's taking place. Here's an event from Gamma Prime that took place. This is from the Luna PR YouTube page. Still only has 252 views. We have an individual representative. His name is, it's kind of small on the font. There's a gentleman from Stellar Foundation up here. And then this gentleman, I can't see his name. I think it's Vinette. All I know is that he mentions that they're building on Canton Network. And just listen to what one of the panelists says about how no asset manager will bring assets on chain without privacy. And then listen to what the gentleman, like I said, I think his name's Vinette. I can't see his last name. The print's a little bit too small. But he mentions, why Canton? And then he goes on to talk about how because it rewards banks, it rewards people who participate in the network. And then that's going to lead me over here into this post from this head of portfolio growth at CoinFund, which is one of the biggest and most experienced crypto native investment firms. She says literally the identical thing, which just goes to show that Canton is at the forefront of all this. So just listen to what this gentleman here says about privacy.
Margin, nobody but my fund, my counterparty, and the custodian knew. You can't do that on a blockchain today. Blockchains by nature are transparent to give you a truth layer. But that was an oversight when Bitcoin first came to the market. This truth engine that we all around the infrastructure of blockchain relied on transparency to give you a solution around confirmation of asset ownership, no double spends and things of that nature. No large asset manager will bring their assets, their portfolio, their liquidity on chain on a public network.
So there he said, right? No asset manager will bring assets on chain and without privacy. Okay. And then listen to what this guy, actually, I think I got his name wrong. This guy's name is Yultan, and he works at, it says Hecto Finance. Okay. Listen to what he says here about why Canton. Take a second here and listen.
Or any other SME in the world, and we need to open this opportunity, because it's a huge opportunity, to any investor globally.
Yeah, well, thanks for that. Alton, you're building pre-IPO, you're tokenizing pre-IPOs on Canton, you said earlier. Yeah, I was just on a panel with them before this. You know, however, your fellow panelists here, you have other L1s. You're sitting here with Stellar and Midnight. So what is actually going to win? Is it the purpose-built layer ones, or the more general purpose, the more general layer ones? Because, you know, Stellar has been doing RWAs before RWAs was a thing. So why Canton?
Well, I didn't realize you wanted to start a fist fight on the stage.
Come on, we're coming to the end of the day. I want to wake up the audience a little bit.
We'll keep it calm. So I think if you look at the top hundreds and you think about what has launched in the last year or two that's exciting, that's novel, that's different, I would really hold up two projects. The first would be BitTensor, you know, purpose-built L1 designed for a very specific use case, right? And the second is Canton, purpose-built L1 designed for a very specific use case. Monad, Mega E, so many of these chains that are coming out offering, you know, cheaper, faster. I think perhaps they can get some market share, but really we're at the point of maturity now where, as we've discussed on the panel already, it's specialized features that will bring these assets online. And also, not only that, it's novel economic systems. Look at the economic innovation behind the subnet design of BitTensor. Look at the huge numbers of incentives that are being distributed by Canton. They can only do that because of their unique consensus model, right? Other blockchains are simply overpaying for security with proof of work or proof of stake. They found a way to alternatively distribute the lion's share of these incentives, not to node operators, but actually to the developers, right? To the banks or the payments institutions who are going to build that financial infrastructure.
So he talks about how we're in this maturation phase, and he talks about how the tokenomics and the way that the incentives are built out actually trickle down to the builders, actually trickle down to the app developers and the people that are actually building on the Canton network. And then if we remember, we recall, we come over here to this lady, the Coin Fund representative, Jenna Pilgrim, head of portfolio growth, and she's asked the question, you know, like, what projects are going to win long term? And listen to what she says here. She talks about how the best technology is not going to win anymore. It's going to be the technology that creates incentives for people to actually utilize it. Take a second here and listen.
So the topic of today's panel is how can crypto protocols build sustainably when crypto narratives are constantly rotating? So for the first question, maybe let's talk about, like, what is a narrative and what's driving the narratives? Is it the KOLs? Is it the VCs? Is it just the price? Or is it something else? Go for it, Jenna.
So I think differently from other cycles, we're really seeing revenue and fees drive narrative. And I think that's a lot healthier. It means that those of us who come from traditional finance understand that things can actually be measured. We have some models that we can run on protocols now. And we never used to be able to explain why protocols were able to grow or why developers wanted to build on them. Many people hold the belief that the best technology will win. And I think we've actually seen that to be not true. The best technology won't win. The best distribution will win. And I think that distribution is really incentivized by what revenue and what protocol fees you can pass on to the user. This whole concept of collective ownership, but also collective earning, is a new concept. It seems kind of like silly and novel, but yeah, that's a real narrative driving forward, I think.
Right. And as you heard the gentleman mention, that's exactly why they're choosing to build on Canton and what Canton offers. So just another huge alignment of how Canton could be one of the winners in the future moving forward. Well, everybody, blessings to you guys. Hopefully you all enjoyed that breakdown. If you did, do us that favor, smash that thumbs up button and subscribe. And with that being said, we'll see you guys all in the next episode. Everybody take it easy.